Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started and discuss some of the rolling grant opportunities that we still have available and the CVR funding that you all should have received information about here a few days ago. I'm going to be emceeing this meeting and also letting folks in, so I try not to be super distracted. But get started. So just to introduce everybody, Kayla and Andrew are not here today. And Ann is also gone, but I've got Ginny, Linda, Tim, and Brandon, myself, and Sandy is back there. Need to make sure she's included on this list. I apologize for forgetting to put you on there. Today, we are going to talk about the rolling grants and CVR. So we're going to discuss housing rehabilitation, regional water planning, commercial rehabilitation, economic development, and a CVR program with applications due on July 31st. So starting with housing, I'm going to jump right into Linda's slideshow. You all should be seeing the housing one now. Linda, you just tell me how.
Let's go.
To go.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to go over the housing one and I'm going to go quickly. And if you have questions, please write them down and then we'll address them at a later time. So I'm going to tell you what's eligible in the CDBG rehabilitation program. We can do owner occupied or rentals. Some of the things that we can do are electrical, plumbing, roofs, weatherization, and other health concern items. We can also, or you can also apply for demolition funds within that, and we can do the vacant units as long as they've been vacant for 3 months. The other thing that I added a few years ago, for some of you that are not aware, we can do what we're calling neighborhood development, which encompasses the rehab, the demolition, also allows you to do infrastructure. And that's basically to improve streets, sidewalks, curb and gutters within the target area that you pick for your housing. Okay. National objective for this, as far as that goes, is low to moderate income for the housing rehabilitation. The owner as far as rental rehabilitation, the household person, the person that lives in the household must be low to moderate income. If the owner of the unit, the rental unit, is LMI, then they have to still contribute, but only 15%. If they're non-LMI, if the homeowner is non-LMI, they must contribute the 25%. We do the demolition under spot, slum, and blight, and the neighborhood development. If you do that piece, you would have to conduct an LMI survey, which would be determined after you choose the infrastructure you're going to place in the target area. What's eligible? Single family housing units, conversion of housing structures, non-housing structures such as an old school, hospital, or something of that nature. We've not done any of those, but those are eligible. And then those could be at mixed income rental units. So that 51% of that unit, of that complex, would have to be 51% low to moderate income. What you would do is select your professional services, and those are included your administrator, your housing inspector, your risk assessor, radon inspector, and the asbestos inspector if you're going to do demolition. And typically all those inspectors are from the same firm or company, and the administrator sometimes is usually different. Here's the maximums that can be awarded. If you're going to do rehabilitation and demolition only, then you can apply for $300,000. All the city would have to come up with is the environmental cost to do that. All the rest of that would be grant money that would be used to complete your project. The neighborhood developments, it includes the housing as $300,000. We'll give you an additional $200,000 to complete that infrastructure improvement. And then you have to match that $200,000 for the infrastructure. Administration costs, if it's 250,000 or more, it's 30,000. If it's under 250, it's 25,000. For housing radon inspection, $1,000. The risk assessors, you'll pay them $1,000 for the risk assessment. lead-based paint, clearing and testing, and that's when the inspector comes in and tests to make sure the house is clean of lead-based paint is $300,000 or $300. No, we're not gonna give you $300,000. And then the contractor gets 10% of the rehab cost for cleaning for clearance. You will want to have some temporary relocation money in there in case you have to relocate a family because of lead-based paint. The demolition inspection maximum is $500. Conflict of interest, I'm just going to go over this really quick. If we cannot do a home of the mayor and anybody on the council, we can do conflict of interest waivers possibly, or we can for other people in the city. We'll just leave it at that. If you're an entitlement in one of these communities, you're not eligible to come to the small cities program. So you'll need to go within those jurisdictions and check to see if you get funds from them. Best practices. Have a truthful housing assessment tool. If you haven't been aware of that, you have to do a housing assessment tool to complete that so we can know what your needs are. You do not have to come to HIAC, the Housing Interagency Committee, but you do have to do a housing assessment. Choose a good target area and I can advise you and help you with that. Make sure you have qualified inspectors and administrators to help you through. You want to get pre-applications from the rehabs and demos, and you have to have committed contractors. So that's been the biggest obstacle for us. So if you get 3 or 4 or 5 good committed contractors, you will have an excellent project. We also have to have a local dedicated staff because somebody local needs to get the applications when they come in. And make sure the city's cleaned up before you apply. So we come out for a site visit that your neighborhood looks clean and nice and no trash and junk cars sitting there. That was it. It was quick. I will take questions. Are we going to do them all at the end or do we have?
Let's do them all at the end because we're gonna knock out a few more of these grants. So if you have any questions, hold them till the end and we'll answer them when we're done with the rest. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the other. Perfect. Rehab. So for regional water planning, I'm going to have Jenny over here talk about this section.
Sure. So regional water planning, basically we are offering some funds to help communities do feasibility studies to see if there is a potential for future water projects. Currently, this is just for water projects. We are kind of exploring consolidating some closely knit sewer systems as well. So if you do have a sewer project, reach out to me. We can talk about that. But right now it's really just for water projects. What it will be is just systems consolidating where 3 or more systems are merging together to make one public water supply system with a single governing body that's in charge of it. Projects that result in the creation or expansion of the public wholesale water supply district is the goal here. And a minimum of 3 public water supply systems is what we are working towards. If you happen to have a project that is 2 systems and not 3, you can definitely talk to me about it and we can see if there's something that we can come up with for that one. This year, we are accepting applications for these planning grants until December 1st. The maximum that you can ask for from CDBG is $12,500, which is 50% of the cost for a preliminary engineering study to check feasibility for water planning. We are partnering with KDHE for their regional planning grants So it is possible that you could have the other half of your study paid for by KDHE. You might, if you don't want to use them for your matching funds for that, you can always pay with local funding. But the goal is for you guys to kind of invest in trying to get some regional planning going on so we can find out if there's any more systems out there that would benefit from being regional. Another thing to keep in mind is that for the feasibility study itself, the entities involved do not have to be low, moderate income. If it is found that your project is feasible to regionalize during that study, then at that point, if you wanted to come to us for potential additional funding for design work or for grants to pay for construction in the future, then all of the entities do have to be low, moderate income. But for this specific study, they do not.
Okay.
And I think that might be it.
Yes, that is it. Tim, would you like to?
Yep. Happy to do that. Hi. We'll talk a little bit about commercial rehab, longstanding project or program that is well utilized, and I do still have some funds left for it for this year. So it is for the construction costs to rehab. It is primarily going to be addressing kind of the building envelope, code violations, historic preservation, and at the end of this is all about job creation. So we are going to include the asbestos and any lead-based paint hazards and evaluation in there, along with the rehab of the building itself. Typically, they are a couple ways that can be qualified, either job creation or addressing some slum and blight. Typically, folks do the slum and blight. It's a little easier to navigate the rules. But if they do that, then it has to eliminate some specific conditions that are detrimental to public health and safety. Those usually fall right in line with those code violations that exist there already. Next one there. Again, same thing. Applications are year round through December 1st. I think that's going to be for all of them except for the last one that the brand is going to talk about. $250,000 is the maximum award that you can get for a single building, single owner. And we are looking to have at least 25% match of the total project cost from the private industry grants, wherever else you might be able to get it. And like I said, at the end of the day, we want to have, whether you do job creation or you do slum and blight, we still, at the end of the day, want to have a business or more than one business in that rehab space. And you have a year from completion to get those folks up and running and in that business. So that's important there to have that ultimate end goal in mind for those projects. And I think that's the last slide there. Yep. So that's that. I also do economic development, so I'm gonna jump into that real quick. There's a couple different things that could come through economic development. One of them is going to be the first bullet, infrastructure improvements to feed a potential business, to expand a business, to create a business, whether it's extending utilities, roads, sidewalks, whatever the case may be, water sewer lines, any infrastructure that's going to assist that business in opening or expanding would be an eligible activity under economic development. And then the other side of it is going to be business financing. That's where we're going to actually do a loan to the business that is wants to locate in or expand in the community. And we break it down by two different types of category. And that really just comes into play with the percentage of interest that's charged on the loan. So we do have a couple different, we do the non-retail local service type of businesses. Those are going to be your manufacturing, things along those lines. And you have your retail local service businesses, your UPS stores, your whatever other small business in town that might be able to be assisted. We do give some, it is primarily a loan but we do get some forgiveness here. We will forgive 25% of that overall cost if the financing or everything's completed on time and there are no concerns there. That will forgive a good portion of that loan and you only have to pay back a portion thereof. All right, next slide. Again, year round, the maximum for economic development is $750,000. There is at least a 50% match of the total project cost there. And like I said before, you can either do, this one is going to be, sorry, if you use my programs. This one's going to be job creation or job retention. That's what's going to have to happen at the end of the day out of this program. with the funds that we invest, whether we invest it in infrastructure or we actually give a loan to the business to buy things or capital equipment, et cetera, that at the end of the day, we are either going to create low, moderate income jobs that didn't exist, or we're going to retain low, moderate income jobs that are in jeopardy of being lost if we don't come in and help. And then there's this public benefit test. It's complicated. I want just the next two bullets really kind of talk about what that is. We are saying that we are going to invest up to $35,000 maximum per job that is either created or retained with a business finance loan. All right, so you can do that. For the infrastructure, a little bit different. There's a maximum of $10,000 per job of CDBG funds. That's going to be for the infrastructure. It's a little lower threshold. It also ties into some other businesses that might be near that, but we can talk about that if you have a specific project. And I believe that's the last slide for my economic development.
Thank you, Tim. Before we move on, all the programs that we talked about today are located on the website. So if you need to go back and get more information, please visit the Kansas Commerce CDBG website and look for the tiles that are associated with the type of program you're looking for. The consolidated plan survey, we have actually extended the deadline of this survey. It was supposed to be yesterday, but we are moving it to the 17th. So there's a few more days that folks can get survey results in. And I have copied and pasted that survey link into this, into the chat. If you have not seen this survey, please take it. If you have seen it, please blast it out to your community one more time, just so we can get just some of those straggling folks that haven't taken that survey yet. The more responses we get, the higher quality of data we're going to be able to use to help us with our consolidated plan. The last topic that we're going to talk about today is the new CDBG COVID Resiliency, or CVR, grant program that was just announced earlier this week. CVR is a grant program that allows businesses that provides upgrades to businesses to remain open, preventing health closures or preventing future closures due to community illness and health emergencies. So the idea is focusing on that resiliency piece. We want businesses to be able to enhance themselves so that they can create e-commerce opportunities, website enhancements, things like that. These funds will be prioritized for for-profit businesses that have a majority ownership by a socially or economically disadvantaged person or persons as defined in 15 CFR 1400.4. That is a HUD guideline that you can see on our website just to help us define what socially or economically disadvantaged persons are. Applications for this program are due July 31st. I just wanted to point out some of the public hearing deadlines. The hard dates for the publication will be July 10th. The hard date for the public hearing needs to be done by July 16th. I do think that those are weekends. So if you are not putting publications in on the weekends or doing hearings on the weekends, you want to make sure you get them done during the business days prior to those dates. To get more information, to find the guidelines, and to watch a webinar that I recorded earlier this week, you can visit the kansascommerce.gov/CDBG/COVID-resiliency-CVR. The easiest way is just to go to our CDBG website and look at the bottom right tile. That is the CVR. I will be hosting office hours from 2 to 3 o'clock on Wednesday, June 28th. Very similar structure to how the third Thursday is. I'm just going to be here in this room for an hour answering folks' questions and providing some technical assistance to cities, counties, grant administrators if they want to clarify some things. So moving to the questions, does anybody have any questions about any of the grant programs they heard today? Housing rehab, water, commercial rehab, economic development, or CVR? You can either unmute yourself or you can type it in the chat, whichever is most convenient for you.
While you're thinking of a question, I just want to say that I went through the housing very quickly. because I was afraid we was going to run out of time and I should have taken more time. I was given a timeline and I could have taken more time. So to go back through that though, basically you would need to complete your housing assessment tool. We have a new tool online. If you want to start with that, if you haven't completed already, let me know. And Liz Herring is basically doing that for us, guiding communities through that. We want the communities to work on that and go through that as they can. Then you can start on your target area and getting your administrator, engineer, administrator, and inspectors, and look at your contractors. So if you have any questions about that, please reach out and I can provide more detail in more time.
There is a question in the chat. It says on the regional aspect, will you consider just adding one to an existing public water supply district? If you're adding one to a district and the district has more entities involved, then that is potential because you are still technically consolidating more than two entities. Because we would count all of the entities that are involved in that district. So it is potential. If you want to send me the communities and some more information, then we can look at it.
Right. Any other questions? Okay. If you. Do we have someone coming off mute?
Yes. Hi, this is Diane from Wichita.
Hi.
Just quick question, not about these grants, but about the Child Care Accelerator grants. Will we find out next Friday if we tune in to the board meeting, or will we find out prior to that board meeting if our proposal has been accepted or no?
Diane, we don't have anything to do with the
Okay.
accelerator grants. You'll have to contact, I believe it's Child Care Aware. They should be able to answer your questions if you email them.
That's what I thought, but I just thought, I'm going to throw out the question while I've got you guys there.
You're here.
Not a problem. Thank
But
you.
That does remind me, I do want to thank everybody in this call for the applications that were submitted for the CDBG, the competitive CDBG projects. We had a lot of amazing applications. It makes our job very difficult. We are currently in the final stages of that review, and we hope to have award announcements for those projects out here in a few weeks. I'm not going to give you a hard date because that's never a good idea, but just know that we are finishing it up, making sure that we are crossing our T's and dotting our I's, and you'll be hearing from us shortly about those projects. If there are no further questions, like always, you can reach out to anyone in this room to ask questions, to have a conversation about potential projects you want to do in your community, even just to chit chat. I know Jenny likes that. But otherwise, you have a great afternoon, and we will see you at the next third Thursday.
Bye, everybody.
Everybody.